everything like kicked off ahead of time, and let's
Right.
get it out on the socials while this fires off because it'll let me know we're live in just a second here. Okay, let me just do a quick bop over here and over here.
You're live.
Okay, and then we'll
Let's go.
get that focus back, and yep, there we go. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I'm your host, Kalari GXE, along with my co host, Pix.
Hello.
And I know we talked a lot on Tuesday, Wednesday it was. I'm getting my days crossed. On Wednesday, but we had so much more that we wanted to cover and talk about with the debate aftermath. And like I said, we have the whole uncut version on Twitch, and I downloaded it, but YouTube doesn't seem to like us using the Daily Show. So that part had to be edited out, sadly. And I liked it because I think Jon Stewart covered a lot of how we were feeling. But, copyright is copyright. And instead of our cast getting blocked, I'd rather just had it edited out on YouTube. So it's still up on Twitch for the next 2 weeks. And I will try to find a platform that won't do that to us to host it if needed. But, we had fun, and I'm definitely excited to talk more with Pix. How you doing today?
I'm good, darling. I'm good. I'm excited, and I'm just like, I know that we totally just like derailed each other so well on Tuesday. It was fabulous. I had so much fun.
So did I. And speaking of fun, everybody who watched the debates had an opinion, but Small Yoho, who I know some people might not know who they are. If you don't, it's weird because they have over 13 million followers. They like to auto tune the news and news events and political stuff. And they work with Joseph Gordon Levitt for this opening music video to cover one of the debates. I'm going to call it the debate's highlight of the night, when Trump stepped in it about eating dogs and cats. And they were one of several people that covered this gaffe of his musically. I just sent Pix the Kiffness video too of that because yeah, he's hilarious, and he's donating anything he makes from that video to the Humane Society and animal shelters. So I thought that was really sweet of him.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he is such a nice guy, and I was like, there's so many creative people in this space, but when I see this Small Yoho one, I was like, yeah, we're gonna open up with this because it's funny. So let's get this one fired off because it'll set the tone for the night. We're gonna be laid back, have some fun.
Hello and welcome to the first 2024 presidential debate. Both sidesism is now cringe.
And that's okay.
Gloom is now boring. Nihilism is now cringe and boring.
I don't care.
Tonight, everything is fresh and new. Frankly, it's so exciting, it's a little unsettling.
I couldn't care less.
Now to keep things fresh,
Let's do it in this key. Wages have been going up, but prices got out of control. Now how can an average girl afford a nice bag of pizza rolls?
Economists have said that Trump sales tax would result in $4,000 more a year on the backs of the middle class.
Okay.
The only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. Bounce, bounce, back. She's going to my philosophy. I was gonna send her a mega hat.
You wouldn't know it from the news, but immigrants have a lower crime rate. So can we talk about border policy in a non-racist way?
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Coming in from all over the world. From insane asylums. They're eating the pets.
Congress came up with a border bill. I supported it. Would have put agents on the border to stem the flow of fentanyl. Donald Trump said, kill the bill.
Yep.
You lost manufacturing jobs.
They threw him out of the campaign like a dog.
You're not running against Joe Biden. You're running against me.
Who would you be
I will be a president that will protect rights.
if you were in the West Wing?
We have a nation in decline.
Would you be fair? Would you be tough? And uphold the Constitution and stuff? Who would you be?
I was gonna send her a mega
We're
hat.
not going back.
What would you do
And I pledge to you that I will put you first.
if we vote for you?
Millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse.
From day 1 through 2028, and make it quick before the commercial break. We got to get to.
We're wasting time.
Stop with the continuous line.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
One that is focused on the future, and the other on the past.
They're eating the dogs. I read that you was black. I'll say that.
Let's not go back. We're not going back.
Very thought-provoking. We'll be right back.
Juice Burger. America has a choice. Choose to buy.
I
Burger.
love
Made
this
by
because I thought it was an ad, and I was like,
Now,
wow.
this is unproven. You like burger. You bad, stinky baby. Like a burger is root of all suffering.
That's
Democracy
hilarious.
is burger. Juice Burger.
Juice Burger. America chooses taste every time.
Juice
And now for the
burger makes
halftime
you
Juicy
happy.
Zinger replay brought to you by Juice Burger.
Yeah.
And stupid. You're a disgrace.
Yeah.
A foreign policy win is to have a lot of friends. But could you team up against our enemies? Cause they keep trying to start shit again and again.
As America always should, we look out for our friends. Our allies are so thankful you are no longer president.
Your turn.
We're not gonna protect you if you don't pay.
Dictators
extortion.
manipulate you with flattery.
Will you accept the results if you don't happen to win? Or will you be whining and crying and trying to throw out the votes again?
Look, there's so much proof. They should have sent it back.
The President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack.
A nation in decline. Our elections are bad.
Donald Trump was fired. He is having a difficult time processing that.
Most Americans do believe in a woman's right to choose. Should we listen to them or Amy Coney Barrett and 5 old dudes?
Execution, afterbirth, Democrats are radical. You know what it reminds me of? Student loans.
Her face is everything.
What you are putting women through is
Whenever she did that.
unconscionable.
Yes.
Absolutely support.
He was done. I knew he was done.
We finally put a cap on the insulin price. Could you please do that for everything else? Cause we're just trying to stay alive.
Healthcare should be a right. Remember when insurance could deny? We have the cost of insulin.
They got his
Donald
faces
Trump
down,
never
too.
did.
Alright.
We're looking at different plans. I have concepts of a plan. There are
Concepts.
concepts and options we have. If we can come up with a plan,
He lost manufacturing jobs.
they can rule him out of a campaign like a dog.
Who would you be
I will be a president that will protect rights.
if you were in the West Wing?
We have a nation in decline.
Would you be fair? Would you be tough? And uphold the Constitution and stuff? Who would you be?
I was doing this under a MAGA
We're
hat.
not going back.
What would you do
And I pledge to you that I went with you first.
if we vote for you?
Millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, we're him.
Through 2028 and make it quick before the commercial break. We got to get to.
We're wasting time.
Stop with the continuous lie.
Tell me who would you be? Tell me who would you be? Tell me, tell me. Oh, tell me, 'cause I gotta know. Who would you be? Tell me who would you be? Tell me who would you be?
Smoke yo ho.
I love them.
Go register to vote.
Yes, that was more yo-ho. And what I love the most about the talented people that are weighing in on Trump's ridiculousness is that it isn't just people who are branching into the YouTube scene or actors that aren't well known. I've loved Joseph Gordon-Levitt since he was that geeky kid on Third Rock from the Sun, and you've watched him just blossom into this multi-talented actor. And I love that they used his vocal range in that song.
And for anybody who isn't aware of what hit record is, it's actually listed as two different ways, like hit record plus hit record.
Yeah.
And what it actually is a website that he co-created that allows artists of all different varieties, be it through digital, ink, crayon, voice, whatever means. And what they do is they put their parts up, and they might have some writing that they have a piece of poetry that they want to put out for other people, and somebody else will take that and they will add the lyric, or they'll add music to it, and then somebody else will actually record it.
Nice.
And then all three of the people get the royalties from it.
That is awesome.
And it is this website has been around for well over a decade, I think close to a decade and a half now. And the only amount that he makes is when he actually gets involved.
Yeah.
So like there's like the base, like you pay into the website itself, like a very small amount. And the submissions themselves fuel others to be able to come, and they do competitions and they do things for charities, and it's all about empowering somebody else so that if you don't know how to put music to words and somebody else wants to sing but they don't have the lyrics to something,
Yeah.
those three people can unite and create something together, and they might never ever meet.
Yeah.
And there are people all over the world, like literally all over the world. Like somebody will write a part for a cello, and somebody will write some lyrics, and somebody will write a story, and they'll all put these things together, and somebody will animate it. And it's actually, there have been things that have gone to Cannes Film Festival, Sundance, TIFF, all over the world, to all these different festivals, and they're winning awards, and they're like charting. I believe one of them actually won a Tony.
Wow.
And like it's amazing all of the things that they're able to do.
Yeah.
And other times it's just they're telling stories, and there's kids books being created. There's stuff that's hit the #1 New York Times bestsellers list. There's a whole bunch, like the entire gamut of art is in there, and there have been a lot of websites and a lot of creativity that have come from what he was like. I know that you might have one idea, but if you share that one idea with somebody else who also has a different idea but wants to collaborate,
Yeah.
it's all open source.
It's kind of like what we're doing here, and what I'm doing with my friend Curie Bell with our webcomic, Our Merry Band of Misfits. And then there's another person that I met on Twitter years ago, and I consider him a friend, Moran Press, that does that for writers too. He's an independent. He presses the books himself, and it's just you can see the people who want to get creativity out there and provide outlets for people to get our work seen, get our work done, and it's just nice to see that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is doing that so that the artistic community can come together and make great things. You know?
Yeah.
And
he wants to empower people, and he didn't want to be pigeonholed into just the actor, because he can sing, and he can dance, and he can write, and he can draw, and he can do all of the things. Like, I say all the things, but you know what I mean. Like,
he's just multifaceted.
Multi-level artist.
Yeah.
And he wanted other people to feel like they had a voice, even if they only ever picked up a pen.
Yep, definitely.
Oh, he's such an empowering individual, and he's, again, I've watched him since Third Rock, and he's absolutely adorable. You can watch this person, like, his trajectory has just, he didn't want the fame, that's why he hasn't really made a huge deal of hit record, but
I think
at the same time, it is a huge deal.
It is. He's uplifting a lot of people whose voices wouldn't get heard otherwise. So I'm glad that you put that information out there, and I'll see what I can do to link Hit Records website, because there are plenty of people, especially on YouTube, just trying to find that outlet. And thank you, Pix. This is information I think will help people that are just looking to collaborate, to get their stuff out there beyond YouTube, SoundCloud, and other stuff that may not get seen. So I'm definitely down to get their information and share it with the people that watch this. And we got one more bit of levity before we get back to the debates. You know I love me some Dark Brandon. They have a 1 minute 40 video about the eating the pets, because I thought we can't let this up until November. Everybody needs to remind this man that he ran with a little psyops from Facebook and took it to the national debate stage.
As we mentioned, former President Trump amplified false claims about migrants eating pets in Ohio. Just never going to get used to saying that, folks. That conspiracy theory has been going viral among some conservatives on some social media platforms.
Wow.
To give us the origin story of this,
thank you for having me. This story and theory, conspiracy theory, originated from a Facebook post that someone claimed that a friend, couple distances away from them, saw and heard that migrants in Springfield, Ohio, were eating people's cats. That was then shared as video was then taken out of context from other parts of the internet, like you just mentioned, that woman who was having the mental health crisis, and was paired and spread like wildfire yesterday. Across the internet, we saw people like Laura Loomer, the conspiracy theorist who is aligned with Trump and was with him yesterday ahead of the debate. It was shared by J.D. Vance, and it was shared by other people on the right-wing ecosystem, not just on Twitter, but across the far-right internet spectrum. And from that point on, it ended up on the debate stage where former President Trump mentioned it, even admitting to the crowd and to Kamala Harris and the moderators that he heard about it through someone who told him it was on television. So, as you and I have covered, as these lies across, whether it's the election interference cases of 2020 that are unproven and not true or something like this, when the scene is set and the kindling has kind of been scattered, like Donald Trump talking about migrants, bringing in crime across the country, bringing in disease, ruining the social fabric of our country, like he said last night. When that stage is set, it's very easy for something like what we saw yesterday on the debate stage to happen, to not just Donald Trump, but to be spread again to the millions of people who were watching that debate.
And that was dark, Brandon, and I think it's true. And Pete Buttigieg weighed in on this as well, and I wanted to play this clip quick because I think he nails it to a T with Donald Trump's antics.
And there's even more to it than demonizing immigrants, although that's obviously part of what he's doing. This is a strategy to get us talking about the latest crazy thing that he did, whatever urban legend he amplifies. Right now, it's about people eating cats or geese or whatever, because he cannot afford for us to be talking about his record. He doesn't want us talking about the fact that we lost manufacturing jobs on his watch, even before COVID, which is why the United Auto Workers are against him. He doesn't want us talking about the fact that his main economic policy promise he actually kept was to cut taxes for the rich. He doesn't want us talking about how he demolished the right to choose in this country, that he's the reason that even IVF could be banned in many places in this country. The last thing he wants us to do is to talk about his record or his agenda. So what he wants us talking about is whatever crazy nonsense he can thrust into the center of the internet and the media conversation. This is...
And that is... It's apt. And what I love about Pete Buttigieg is not only is he not afraid to go anywhere and talk about what's up, but you also see that he has Trump and so many conservatives' number with their antics. He made it clear that Trump will do these antics to distract from the fact that under him, the only people that benefited was the people who already have more than enough. And when you have, when you have a leader like that, it's time for people to open their eyes and realize he's not for us and he's bad for business. But Pix, you did such an amazing job with these clips. I wanted to start with the handshake that pretty much show all women around the country how this man will treat us and how he views us.
So
Here's a 78.
Oh, I want to pause that.
Here's a 78.
And we'll get to Mr. Obama's talk right there. But the thing that troubles me about not just the lack of decorum for Trump to meet her halfway and shake her hand as an opponent of his is the fact that he was trying to, and still is on his trail, disparaging the two moderators for fact-checking him and saying that it was like 3 against 1. And I'm sorry, no. When you're spouting misinformation, it is on the moderators to fact check. And the reason I think he thought that he was being purposely targeted was because CNN, when he had the debate versus Joe Biden, President Biden actually, they didn't fact check him or stop the mic when he was out of pocket. And even these moderators let Trump ramble on for way longer than they should have. But it's telling to me the way so many people want to frame this as a 3-on-1 from the right when I didn't see it like that. Did you?
No, and the way that I saw the statistics afterwards, I believe he ended up having 18 minutes more on camera.
Yeah.
And what he was actually complaining about was they fact-checked him a maximum of 4 times.
Yeah.
They did fact-check her once.
Yeah.
And the only reason why they ended up having to fact-check them was because he blatantly lied, and David was trying to get Kamala to clarify herself, and it wasn't really a fact check. It was more of a, hey, can you elaborate on this a little bit more, because you didn't really state it. You were trying to, like, respond to him being a doofus again.
Exactly.
So he can whine and bellyache and complain all he wants. Like, no matter what, he is always going to say that it is poor pity him, unless he's the one that's winning.
Everything's rigged. Everything's set up to. He's just a big man-child. And what I thought was a tell is that any kind of press back to the rhetoric he put out there, that he takes it as a personal offense. Because he's used to people just going yes to him. Yes, you're right, Donald. Yes. He could say the whole world's on fire, and we know it's not. And he's surrounded by people who won't push back. So any pushback is like a full personal slight to him, and you could tell. And now
we have people in the chat, by the way.
Oh, I said hi to Solomon. Hi, Beans. It's good to see you, dear. It's okay. Hi, Queen Serenity. Serenity Queen. Yeah. But as I was saying, I was just like, I was floored with the fact that he thought that getting fact checked when he was spreading misinformation was a 3-on-1, when that was my main problem, along with all the ageism that all the late night hosts last night were doing the same thing. They were all pretty much saying Biden had a bad time, he was asleep, and it was not his best performance. I gave him a C in the grading for that 2 months ago, because I do feel they shouldn't have had him up there while he was sick. Point blank. But to see people continuously dog on President Biden when he did what he could against somebody he knew was going to lie, was going to ramble, was going to try to rile him up, and they keep comparing the debate that VP Harris did last night, well, 2 nights ago now, to that, and it's like, you can't do that. It's a totally different playing field now. She's not sick. She came prepared, which he tried to attack too. Well, she probably had like a transistor in her ear, and it's like, sir, black women study. I know you're not used to taking notes and stuff. Your team literally told you to stick to your policies, and you fell right into a trap card.
Exactly.
It's just hard seeing that our country is taking this man baby seriously. You know. But I definitely want to do more of these clips because they were amazing. And yeah, he tore it up at the convention, but Kamala, she definitely was fire. And hey again, Solomon, I just feel like a lot of people, whether you're in the left, right, center, whatever, can say that if you go based on who stayed on target, who talked policy, actual policy, who responded more gracefully, Kamala wins. Point blank. Versus Mr. They're eating the dogs and cats. But we're going to fire up President Obama, well, former President Obama's talk, because I know why you clicked this and I love it, Pix.
A 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on.
I love this. They're yawning.
It's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
That was
His
brilliant.
lies never stop.
$35
I'm
insulin.
loving these ads.
I did that.
No.
Obviously not true. Here's Joe Biden signing that piece of legislation.
During my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers.
Trump rolled back environmental protections and dismissed climate
Boom.
change.
Project 25. I don't know anything about it.
Donald Trump has been at our organization. He's blessed it. He's very supportive of what we do.
I'm a better looking person. Roe v. Wade back to the states. No inflation.
I did nothing wrong.
Here's the truth. Donald Trump has been and always will be a liar.
Yes. These are powerful ads. And Pix, I think they speak to, we don't have to go low with him. He does the job for us, but just pointing out how he constantly lies about his record, about all the stuff that he allegedly did for us, I think we can keep hammering home that we don't want this no more. We allowed him 4 years of incompetence. Now it's time to get past that and move on to more competent people who know what they're doing. You know?
I had to laugh because the one about Obama was the one that they put that Kamala had made sure was on Fox.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they spent a couple $1 billion to make sure that one ran several times.
Yeah.
Just on Tuesday, just to get him rattled. Like it was just on Fox. And I'm like,
yeah.
I love her tenacity and just that level of, you go low, okay, you know what? I can play in the mud too.
Yeah, I can drag
We
you.
don't have to stay above board all the time.
Yeah.
I can do this. And I can do this with grace. Like, I need to keep adding other ones that I keep seeing now.
Yeah.
That, like the Lincoln Project, we need to have a discussion about them.
Oh,
my
yeah.
Goodness. And then the Republicans for Harris, they're putting ads out now too.
Nick Offerman did an amazing video too. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of people on board with just focusing on keeping our country from making the bad decision, keeping our system from being tanked by people who only seem to self-serve instead of serve the people. And as Serenity Queen said, she's a former prosecutor. She knows how to set the bait for someone to take. She's more than competent. And when I say the way we hollered watching her set him up by talking about the size of his rallies, I was just in tears laughing because he totally fell for it. And that's so true, Serenity Queen, that it was literally her job as a prosecutor to trip people up on the stand or when they're testifying. She literally made Jeff Sessions cry when he was on, when they were asking him questions about the election stuff. So I love Kamala. I'm sorry. I know it's going to sound biased. It's not like she's a president that I would just want to have a beer with. I love her competency. I love what she could potentially bring to our country as president. You know? So let's fire up this next one here.
Remember when some MAGA Republicans in Congress wore AR-15 pins days after multiple mass shootings to show their support for Second Amendment rights? Well, it wasn't always that way. In 1994, the GOP helped pass a law banning the future sale of assault weapons, and mass shootings declined dramatically. The ban expired in 2004, and mass shootings have shot back up. A 2019 study found that assault rifles were linked to 85% of deaths from mass shootings from 1981 to 2017. The same study found that during the 10-year federal assault weapons ban, the risk of dying in a mass shooting was 70% lower than the times before and after the ban. A Stanford University study reviewed mass shootings over a 35-year period and found that the assault weapons ban caused a 25% drop in mass shootings and a 40% drop in mass shooting deaths compared to the decade before the ban. In the decade after the ban expired, mass shooting deaths surged by 347%, even as overall violent crime was dropping. Despite public support for the ban's renewal, MAGA Republicans in Congress haven't done anything. Instead, they wear AR-15 pins.
I mentioned the other.
Remember when some MAGA Republicans in Congress were...
About this
I mentioned we.
Remember when
There's
some MAGA...
something about interacting. we'll bop over to the next one in a moment, because that was so poignant, especially after what just happened in Georgia with the Appalachia High School shooting. It's happened. It was the first week of school for these kids, and 4 are already gone from military grade weapons in our country. And like I said, I'm old enough to remember the ban after Columbine. I was in college during those years, and I was shocked that it took that level of destruction in a high school for people to understand that we should have those weapons. And when Bill Clinton signed that order, we didn't have it on the regular. It wasn't a daily occurrence like it almost feels now. And then when George W. Bush got into office and they wanted to appease some people, the NRA basically, and repealed it back, Virginia Tech, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Sandy Hook, Pulse, the Las Vegas shooting, the Aurora, Colorado shooting, the shooting just now in Georgia, the Tops at Buffalo shooting. Mass shooting has become so ingrained that people don't even act like, they don't act like it's anything besides the norm here. And I'm just like, what is going on? Because like Serenity Queen said, I and you, we've lived long enough to understand that this ban could have kept in place and alleviated, if not eliminated. When Christchurch happened in New Zealand, the Prime Minister didn't say thoughts and prayers. She said, no, we're banning these. We're banning these weapons because we cannot have this ever happen again. That mosque was shot up by a teen who literally left the manifesto saying they were going to do it, and literally named Trump as his inspiration. Australia had one deadly mass shooting that people still talk about in the true crime circles that set their gun safety laws and just banning. Yeah.
Norway had one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you remember that one?
I believe so. I was almost got it crisscrossed with the van guy, but I do remember. I believe it was a college, wasn't it?
There was a group of individuals, like teenage kids, that were going over to an island, and they were spending a day doing like environmental learning stuff and like having fun and doing stuff like that. And somebody did rent a van, but they took the ferry over and went on a complete and utter rampage. And after that, the government was like, and we're done.
Yeah.
And like Iceland, for instance, Reykjavik, I believe they've had one shooting.
Yeah.
And the last time that any police officer had to fire a firearm, they were put on leave for mental distress because they haven't, like, they just don't do that.
Yeah.
And it was such a huge thing that the entire community rallied around the police officer and was like, we understand why you did it. You weren't doing it in a malicious way.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
that's not the same thing. Obviously, it's not the same thing as the U.S. And I mean, speaking from Canada, I have a completely different view of guns. But again, I also understand that you guys have your Second Amendment. 99% of what needs to be reminded for people is the sentence after that you guys have the right to bear arms in a, how is it properly stated?
I believe
in a properly
it's
designed militia.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a militia designed to protect our nation under crisis and invasion. And the problem I see that we have perverted that into believing that we need to arm up to protect our homes, which is a good thing if you're smart about it. We have a gun safe. That's one of the things I love that VP Harris said, because Trump tried to run with that narrative that she and other Democrats are trying to come for the right wing's guns. No, we're not. a lot of families, especially my house, because I live out in BFE and my husband works outside the house now, I like knowing that I have the safety and protection of our gun safe just in case we need it. But I also know I stay away from it when I have to because I am firearms trained, but I also have mental health issues and I don't want to do anything stupid. It's called smart gun ownership. And the fact that those of us asking for reform are not asking to get rid of all the guns, because that's just not feasible or possible at this point. We're just saying that AR-15s and other assault rifles belong in military hands, not in civilian hands. We have not since September 11th, thank God, had an attack where we would even need a localized militia, because the only close to it have been mass shootings and the Boston bombing. Either way, there is no justifiable reason for AR-15s to be in civilians' hands, to the point where there are families who take Christmas photos with the shits, and senators that wear, and House representatives that wear AR-15 pins like it's a joke. I thought after Sandy Hook, people would open their eyes, because nowadays mass shooters, they're not just looking to harm people, they're looking to make a fucking name for themselves. And they have shown that there's not an age too young for their victims. When are we going to get this and stop catering to these gun nuts and NRA members? You know? I do too. I do feel that MAGA is on its last limbs. They hitched their wagon to an incoherent, rambling person who doesn't have their best interests at heart. But the lingering effects of them, the loyalty test, the purity test, I've told Greg, if the GOP recovers from this, it is going to be the biggest triumph of their party, because they are forever stained with this as far as I'm concerned. I don't see how they turn this around. They had several people on that stage for the RNC that, while I wouldn't have voted for them, because I'm not a Republican, would have been a far better choice to go up against even Joe Biden. But they decided they decided that they needed a puppet. And whether people want to admit it or not, Donald Trump is easily swayed by both flattery, bribery, and being told he's smarter than he is. And he is perfect for people who want to push agendas like Project 2025. You know? I just think that is crazy to me. But we'll keep the clip.
I mentioned we have this terrible shooting in Georgia.
Right.
We're not going to fix it. Criminals are going to be criminals.
Do you think there's any role for Congress to play in reaction to this tragedy?
I don't see any real role that we could do other than mess things up, honestly.
I don't know if there's
I gotta pause because Lindsey Graham gets on my nerves. I lived in South Carolina for a bit, and I got words about that one. We would go into overtime. The whole thing is criminals are going to be criminals. And this is my problem with the GOP, and I said it last Bonnet Chronicles too. They don't want solutions. They want scapegoats. They say criminals are going to be criminals without realizing that the reason we have so many criminals is because poverty runs rampant in our country. Education is not a priority in a lot of states still. Jimmy Kimmel's opened and tested that and blew it out of the water. He went down to Texas and asked, what do you know about women's bodies? Could you tell a woman's reproduction part from an IKEA piece? And I wasn't shocked by the amount of people that got it wrong, but there was this one lady dressed in Trump refinery and American flags and stuff that couldn't even tell you what was it? It was something Mons, Pubica, Mons. It was a part of our, lady bits that most women understand what it is. And not only didn't she know what it was, but she dropped that she was a biology and anatomy teacher. These people don't care about our rights, our body autonomy. They don't even know what's going on in their own body. And they're teaching other dum-dums that it doesn't matter. But it does, because we are the ones who are going through these politicians making laws saying You're too dumb and gullible to know what to do with your body if you get pregnant by incest or SA, or you just don't want to be a mom at the time. I've always said that people treat abortion like it's a black and white instance, and it's so gray. And a woman shouldn't have to justify what she wants to do because we're doing 99% of the work in this situation. And while in a perfect world, you're pregnant by your partner and you have an adult conversation on whether or not you can handle being a parent, I view that as different than somebody getting pregnant, realizing this is not the time for me, and being forced into having it because it was God's plan to some people. I say this as a mom who is working on a second child with my partner. I have the luxury of choosing to be a mom. I think all women should have the luxury to choose whether or not they want to be or not. And you will never shake my foundation on that, especially given that I'm a SA survivor too. And I would not have carried that child. I was far too young when it happened. And I would not want to bear the responsibility, nor would I have had the emotional maturity to not look at that child and see what happened to me. And I have friends who did raise children from that. They're phenomenal mothers. But they always have that linger that this happened because of that.
Yeah, I actually, I've known several people that have carried full term. And through something very horrific. And one individual, every single time that her and her son got into a fight, she reminded him of where he came from.
And that's not good. It's not good.
And it wasn't fair to the kid at all. And the kid ended up taking his life at the age. That wasn't fair to him, and it wasn't fair to her.
No.
And the person who did it was never informed that he was.
Yeah. And that's what I say. It's a life sentence for so many people. And to have people just weigh in. And like I said, I don't even make the argument anymore that it should definitely just be for people who go through that. It's a woman's right. We literally put our lives on the line when we have kids, even in this country, especially in this country, depending on your demographic, depending on the level of income you have. Not everybody has the luxury of having an amazing OBGYN like I do. She is like phenomenal. She made me feel so at ease and so comfortable talking to her about taking the steps of doing what I do. I know when I told her about my allergies, especially, whole list of stuff that I could do on top of the prenatal vitamins, and found me a brand that I could use that wouldn't give me anaphylaxis. But not every woman has that access.
And I think this could actually be a very good podcast episode for us as well, is explaining to everybody that this word is an umbrella, but it means so many different things, like atopic and fallopian and interuterine and uterine distress, and there is an entire horde of different symptoms and situations that take place that fall under that one word.
Yeah.
And because of that, people are like, I don't know whether or not this is going to get you demonetized. That's why I'm trying to, like, do I say the word?
It's fine. YouTube will do YouTube. I'm not worried about that though.
The word abortion itself is a word, but there are so many different things that it falls under, and that's why places like Planned Parenthood and why OBGYNs and why healthcare centers and neonatal centers and all of those things are so incredibly vital.
Yes.
Because it's not just, hey, I've decided I don't want this. Like, it's not instead of a condom. And that's how a lot of people think is, oh, I had sex and I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
No, there are a gamut of reasons why somebody would do this. And having watched somebody who repeatedly had to have them in elementary and high school because of her brothers.
Yeah.
She had 6 abortions before she was in grade 10.
Wow.
This girl hit puberty at 10 and had 6 abortions before she was 16 years old.
Wow.
And what did the family do? The family gave her trouble every single time. And every single time she got progressively worse on how she was reacting. Thankfully, here in Ontario, they were able to actually help her.
Good, yeah.
They got to the point where they were like, "Baby, you're asking for it."
Wow.
And her response was to drink some bleach.
Oh my gosh.
So I can only imagine what it like, and I'm not trying to be dramatic. Like these are the things that I grew up around.
Yeah.
And the idea that I know what I personally have gone through, and I cannot imagine for the life of me being that little 9-year-old girl that is sitting in North Carolina, I believe North Carolina, who is being told that she needs to carry to full term because of her uncle.
Yeah.
Excuse you? She's 9.
Exactly. And then we had a 11-year-old in Ohio that went through that too, and it's sick. And then you have Trump on the debate stage talking about 9-month abortions, which the moderator was like, no, that would be killing the baby, which is illegal in all of our states. And there's no, And the fact that they run with this shows that they don't give a fuck about women's bodies. They don't even know how pregnancies work. And they will run with these weird-ass narratives that it's just like out of control. No woman, and I'm telling you this as somebody who carried a pregnancy to term, is going to have a baby in us that long, knowing that it's going to come out alive and need protection and defense, and go, nope, rip it out of me and kill it. There's no precedent for that. But they still say it. And I think they think if they say it enough, some people will drink that Kool-Aid, but they'll make it seem true, and it's not based in fact. It just infuriates me because it speaks how little they think of us. They think of us as fuckable meat bags and baby incubators as far as I'm concerned. Let's see what else is said on this, though, because I love these ads.
But I'll certainly look and see.
I have to get over it. We have to move forward.
Is this the moment to reform gun laws?
You know, it's easy to go to politics.
But it's important. It's at the
it's
heart
your
of
job,
the issue.
Ted Cruz.
I get that that's where the media likes to go.
No, it's not. It's where many of the people we've talked to here like to go.
Let's not get into politics.
That's the motherfucker from Robinson from North Carolina, that guy that everybody thought, even my in-laws thought that Trump was going to pick him for VP, and I was like, why? You think they try to act like the GOP is friendly towards everybody. If you put their picture up versus DNC, the diversity of DNC versus the stone cold monotone vibe of the RNC, it troubles me. And I'm going to do a special about black Republicans soon, because it's been a long time coming, and it needs to be said that at this point, when you see the agenda of the GOP and you're still acting like they're for us, you're not like us. Point blank.
But right now, I'm not focused on the politics of the situation.
The first thing in any kind of tragedy I do is, as I pray for the victims, pray for their families. I really get angry when I see people trying to politicize it for their own personal agenda.
Oh, I mean, and a lot of people...
They're politicians saying this. It's literally their job to write the legislation to protect the American people. But I don't see why they got to politicize it. Because we know, at least most Americans know, that when shit like this happens, we should be able to go to our legislators and say, hey, We don't want this. We don't want kids who are not well, neglected at home, like the kid from Howell, Michigan was. Like that young transgender student, which they run with in Tennessee. They love to now push that fake agenda that trans students are running rampant with guns and shooting people when it fits their narrative on gun violence. But the majority makeup of mass and school shooters, with the exception of the freeway shooters, have been straight, white, Christian identifying males in homes where they had either parental neglect and access to the internet for forums and message boards that help them spread poisonous agendas against women, against marginalized people in all groups. And people have been put on watch lists for way less in our society. Yet we act like we can't see the problem here. So
the one that shot at Trump, his entire family was put on a watch.
Yeah.
Like, that needs to be identified, and it needs to be broadcast on mainstream news. That family was targeted by MAGA because they were very outwardly public about their AR-15 desires, the fact that they wanted tanks to be near schools.
Wow.
Like, tanks!
What the fuck's a tank?
And not just one, but multiple.
Wow.
This is not a war zone.
At all.
And I realize that there are communities around your country that have a lot of very heavy equipment.
Yeah.
And I do know that there are places that have tanks. And
our police have become so militarized now that we literally have a movement saying demilitarize the police. Because they are being trained to view citizens that don't look like them as hunting targets. And
yes.
It's just infuriating to me that these people don't want solutions. They just want problems so that they can go, see, we're eradicating the problem. Because their answer is always death. Their answer is always an insane response to an issue that they're supposed to be trained to de-escalate.
Yeah.
And
demilitarize versus defund the police. Those are two totally different things that I don't think, again, Trump isn't aware of the fact that there can be two different separate things.
Yeah.
You can demilitarize the unnecessariness of a local sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Without defunding the sheriff's office.
Exactly. That was my point last year and 3 years ago when they started saying that. And I got a lot of pushback on social media about that. And I said, do you really think that people in especially black communities don't know this thing of being afraid of seeing a police badge because they view us as less than, but knowing that we need them in some of our communities? There's that duality there that I don't want funding taken away. I want funding to not go to tanks and weapons, and to mental health counseling, to training officers how to properly de-escalate situations, and to having caseworkers work with the police on mental health calls and stuff that most officers aren't mentally equipped to deal with. We need less issues of police going in guns a-blazing and more of them being able to say, I talked this situation down. I used my authoritative voice instead of pulling out a weapon automatically and ending a life, acting as judge, jury, and executioner. It's a hot button topic because so many people think they have a quick solution to a problem that has been instated since the slaves were repealed in our country. The police went from being the slave chasers to the people who literally helped the school to prison pipeline system continue on. And we have got to do something about that. But just calling and slapping something you could put on a bumper sticker, a solution like defund the police, I was never down for that. I was always down for demilitarize the police, though. You know? And like I said, too many people want easy solutions to problems that are multifaceted. Let's bop over.
How about we treat
this.
every young man who wants to buy a gun like every woman who wants to get an abortion? A mandatory 48-hour waiting period, parental permission, a note from his doctor proving he understands what he's about to do, a video he has to watch about the effects of gun violence, and an ultrasound wand up the ass just because. Let's close down all but one gun shop in every state and make him travel hundreds of miles, take time off of work, and stay overnight in a strange town to get a gun. Let's make him walk through a gauntlet of people holding photos of loved ones who were shot to death and people who call him a murderer and beg him not to buy a gun.
Yes.
I mean, it makes more sense to do this with young men and guns than with women and healthcare, right? I mean, no woman getting an abortion has ever killed a room full of people in seconds, right?
Think about it in this room.
Exactly. And
how about we treat every...
There is something
Think about it in this...
How about we...
Let me get a few seconds of Tim Walz in a moment. But Neve made such a good point about that. Because I remember those protests at Planned Parenthood and other abortion sites. And I kept thinking, this isn't your business. To all those people holding those signs, this is not your business. Yet they thought they were doing the Lord's work. But I would even go a step beyond that because Japan did it right with their gun ownership laws. You have to go through a mandatory training course, prove in right and why you want to have that weapon, because they understand that some people live out in areas with like wildlife and bears that could be dangerous to them. But they have to get a license, renew that license, and if they ever fail the competency test, they are no longer allowed to legally own those weapons. The weapon has to be unarmed. They have to do safety checks. And you don't hear about this. Now, I'm not saying Japan's innocent because they've had mass stabbings and car incidents. Because you can't control what a person who's determined to do that completely. But when I say you can take more lives in Las Vegas, Pulse, and so many others prove that, with the AR-15, why is it so hard for people to understand why we are calling for gun reform? Not gun take away, but gun reform.
And that was the other thing, too. Why was the Tommy gun repealed? Why was the Tommy gun banned? Yeah. Oh, that's right, because it did so much damage so quickly to so many people.
Yes. Anybody who lived in New York or Chicago who remembered those days of, you know, Murder Inc., as they like to call that group, yeah. And it's just infuriating that we've had the template of how to roll back stuff with stuff like the Tommy gun repeal and the ban that happened after Columbine, and yet people are acting like, well, I don't want to get too political. I don't want to think about it. It's sad. Let's see what Governor Walz, soon to hopefully be VP Walz, has to say, because honestly, I think we're all collectively feeling just tired of the gun issue not being addressed properly.
Think about it in this room. This is what these folks are focusing on, spending all their time. Like reading about two male penguins who love each other is somehow going to turn your children gay, and that's what you should worry about. But here's what I'll tell you. It's a fact of life. Some people are gay. But you know what's not a fact of life? That our children need to be shot dead in schools. That's not a fact of life.
Kamala Harris clearly having decided in advance.
And that goes into what I wanted to talk to, because these clips are amazing. But I feel like there is such an agenda on the right to morally try to say that LGBTQ plus are indoctrinating the kids and their way of life, whether it's their sexual identification, their gender identification, which is two different things, but they twisted and perverted it to everything goes down to sex, and it has to be their bland cisgender straight ideation of sex, which I could go on for hours. And they're the ones indoctrinating kids to feel a certain way about another kid that's trying to figure themselves out. But they don't want to protect kids from these violent mass shooters. You can't make that make sense. And I know, Pix, as you as a member of this marginalized group, it has to make you feel a certain way when you hear people come out against something that is a natural part of life and twist it to something just perverted for no reason.
And having grown up and having had to hide it my 90% of my life, and the idea that I've been everybody else's ally except my own, and watching things like Matthew Shepard and all of there's a lot. I'm just going to put it that way. There's a lot. Seeing how much discrimination there is, and it not just be religious, it comes down to a fundamental, I don't understand, and I'm too scared to ask questions. So I'm just going to assume that you're either A, going to infect me with it, B, try to convert me into it, or C, it's somehow gonna contagiously rub off on me if I'm around you too long. But my favorite thing that Waltz has started to say is, why are you thinking about what's going on in somebody else's bedroom?
Yeah.
It literally has nothing to do with anybody else. Consenting adults, and that's the key, consenting adults don't need to tell other people what they're doing.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. And as I was telling you privately, I identify openly as I'll put it all out there all at once, a sapio, demi, pansexual with lesbian. That's the full thing, which means I want your delicious brain, then I want your heart. It does not matter. It literally does not matter what is in your pants.
Yeah.
But if you got boobies, I'm probably going to look first. That's probably where I'm. But if you've got a delicious brain, I just want that first.
Exactly.
I don't even need a sexual relationship. One of the reasons why you and I get along so well is you've got a delicious brain. And I'm like, nom, 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 I am a zombie.
Yeah.
So the delicious brains that I am madly in love with are people that I care about because it's more than just what it is. And I identify as Plutonian because I don't see myself, and I've never seen myself as a human being. And I didn't know for the longest time that meant that I was actually non-binary. And I'm she, they, so I will take either one. I've had people call me he, whatever, I got a set of boobs, whatever. You see a guy, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But she or they is what I usually prefer, and I am fine with either. And the whole reason behind the reason why I'm saying this is I haven't tried to convert you or Lord or anybody or Serenity or Soul or anybody else. I haven't needed to.
No.
And I don't want to convert somebody else to something that I ascribe to as my own personal
it's your path.
Perception of life.
Yeah.
Because it has nothing to do with sex. And even if it did have anything to do with sex, nobody is going to know about that because it's going to be between me and another consenting adult.
Exactly.
And I don't ask everybody else where they put their pee-pee, and I don't ask everybody where they put their vajayjay.
Yeah.
So I don't expect anybody to ask me where I put any of my body parts.
Exactly. And
so there you go. I'm off of my little soapbox.
No, that was good, and I'm glad you said that because I feel like when you see the right villainizing people that they just want to live and they want to live in a world where they're not persecuted for who they are, and yet we have these issues that are in our face taking lives, and they want to deflect. Oh no, somebody wrote a book about two same-sex penguins, and it's like, are you kidding me? And like I said, in my novel, I definitely diversified the characters because I wanted to see. I know they're trying to get better in Hollywood with diversity and representative voices, but it still feels ham-fisted in some ways. And I wanted characters that people could understand. They go through the same things. Like, not to give too much of Axiom away, even though the second novel's about to come out too. There's a governor-elect that is a lesbian that had to hide that from the person of interest because they were already, thank you so much, Pix, in a relationship that was falling apart, but they were friends and didn't want to ruin it. There's another officer on the squad that was going through it with his partner in both professional and relationship things that I wanted to showcase that LGBTQ, and I love that pillow too. Petty Bitch Energy, get it in the merch shop, y'all.
In the merch shop,
there are characters that are so much like everybody else, but they're not written properly. Their sexuality is almost always the forefront in television stuff, and it's just one aspect of their beautiful personalities. And that's why I was like, instead of bitching about it, I'm just going to write these characters. And I ran it past people that I knew and trusted in the LGBTQ community before I released the book that said, I love these stories. I was pulled in because their sexuality was great, but I liked the character. And that's what you have to do, especially when you're writing outside. Because I always say, I know who I love. I know who I'm more sexually stimulated by, but I'm not closed off to things. I've been in a committed relationship with Greg for over a decade now, so I kind of know my wheelhouse. But I grew up in New York City, and I seen all kinds of couples, and I always thought that was beautiful. That's what makes the fabric of our society. And I'm just tired of seeing people try to vilify people who just want to live confidently in who they are, whether it's their gender identity, which once again has absolutely nothing to do with sexuality, especially when they're young and trying to figure out, why am I in this body that does not fully represent who I am? For our trans brothers and sisters. Or, I'm in this body, but I don't really feel tied to the construct of male or female gender. And I just don't want to declare anything because I'm fluid. To people who understand their sexual identity, whether they are straight, whether they are homosexual, lesbian, or gay, whether they are pan, whether they're sapiosexuals who are just attracted to a person's knowledge. Sexuality needs to be taught so that it can stop being so restricted and we can get somewhere in our society. Because vilifying and creating enemies, like Kamala said, why are we still going back to this? The time of divisiveness needs to end, you know? But I don't want to end on a serious note. And like I said, I sent this to Pix before we got fired up. And I love that the Kifness is doing this. He is going to donate any proceeds he makes off this video to animal sanctuaries, but especially cat shelters. And I'm excited to play this. It's only 2 minutes, y'all, but you know him as the guy who did the Levin polka with bongos and remixed it, and the Bob and Kitty head to it. He came out with the Eating Cats featuring Donald Trump, this debate remix, and I think it'll bring us up before we finish off this one.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Springfield, please don't eat
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
Husky.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs.
There's a Bobby King.
They're eating the cats. Meow, 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 meow. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
He is so
In
talented.
Springfield, they're eating the dogs. The people that came in,
That
they're
dog's
eating the
face.
cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And
Wow. It's like I said, sometimes you gotta bring levity to the absurdity. And Pix, like I said, I enjoy having you on here. And, you know, I don't want to jump the gun with this announcement, but we've been talking about this, and I really do like having you on here. And I think we could set up something that, while I definitely will have you on here when we're talking these politics, news, and social issues, I think we could talk about anything. And I am looking forward to us coming together, doing a podcast, and just talking anything from geek to body identity to everything. I feel like we could just bounce stuff off of each other, and it just feels natural.
It does. It does. Like I'm not even kidding. The other day, we left our video chat, and I was like, "Well, that was a good hour." And I look back, and I was like, 3 hours.
Yeah.
What
I
do you mean,
feel
3
it.
hours?
Yeah.
It just was so calm and so fun, and just it's been a long time since I've been able to like talk politics with anybody, and you are so fucking chill. Like,
I try.
I love your juicy little brain. Like, love it. Love it so much.
Definitely. And same to you, Pix. You are so creative and warm. And like I said, I learned stuff tonight about, and I'm going to get the link for Joseph Gordon-Levitt's. Yeah. I want people to understand that while I know people think Americans only think about ourselves and our POV in regards to our elections and stuff, bringing you on here shows that there are people from every corner of our globe that are watching and waiting to see if we make that mistake again of letting that man into the Oval Office, because it's going to have ripples across the globe. And I'm not saying that as America's so important. I'm saying that who's in that Oval Office will negatively impact trade, tariffs, industry, and just what's going on with these conflicts in both the Ukraine and Palestine and Israel. It's just boggling to me that people think that we can't have these conversations because you don't live here. If somebody is genuinely interested in U.S. politics or has an opinion and wants to learn, we should be open. And I'm definitely more open to learning more about Canadian politics because I understand the Prime Minister and I understand certain provincial things via Providence, but it'll be good to learn what I can because you are literally my neighbor here in Michigan. Like, it doesn't take that long to get from where I'm at to Canada. So I'm just like, stop trying to set boundaries and borders. Let's all learn from each other. That's what this digital age is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
But
the lines that we have physically as borders are literally an arbitrary line that's created.
Yeah.
And stepping over that line should not be as divisive as it has become.
Yeah.
And as problematic as it has become. Like, it should just be. I mean, I got out of the truck in 2003, but I've spent my entire life being able to go back and forth across the border without ever even needing my birth certificate, let alone any other thing. And now, the last time that I traveled down there, I had to have my passport.
Yep.
Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's a whole other topic for another day.
And we will have more topics, y'all. I'm going to talk with Pix about it. We'll pinpoint a day for, just a fun cast. But anytime you want to be on the Bonnet Chronicles, I really have been enjoying these. And what I'm going to do is next time set up the camera not on here, but the adjacent camera so that we can have a proper side-by-side. But I like this setup. I think we can make this work. And thank you so much for joining me on these.
For sure. I realized that we didn't get very much done about the debate again,
but we did talk a lot of good topics.
We did. We got a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you again, and thank you for everybody who endured.
Yeah, no, you were good. No enduring. This was so much fun. Thank you, Beans, Solomon Isle, Serenity Queen, everybody who lurks, everybody who's going to watch the follow-up. Pix, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being in the comment section, encouraging all the watchers to our stream too. Like I said, I love how natural this feels. So never doubt that you are the best co-host ever. I love it. You really are. You truly are.
Thank you so much.
But we're going to wrap this up. We will be back Tuesday with a Tell It Tuesday, Fridays. And like I said, I'm going to work it out with Pix to see if there's a day of the week that we can both just do fun, geeky stuff, talk about life, talk about other issues, because as much fun as it is talking politics with you, I think we could talk a wealth of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to wrap this up, y'all. Go hug your loved ones. Have a good dinner. Get some rest. And we will see you again soon.